The year is 2017, the Krypton trailer was released under the radar and everyone collectively said,
okay.
Because it simply didn't look like the Arrowverse, or even the usual slop on the Syfy channel. Money was confusingly spent on a show about Superman's granddad.
I don't know, man. There's just not a whole lot of appeal here.
However, there was immediate confusion over the continuity of the show. Just look at these set designs and costumes. Krypton was developed very clearly to be part of the DCEU. David Goyer, the man of boldness who wrote Man of Steel, literally spearheaded the show.
I mean, a lot. We've only scratched the surface in that film.
The lead actor, Cameron Cuff, was also chosen partially because he resembled Henry Cavill to an extent. I don't really see it, but okay.
Those shows developed into JLU.
And the show is riddled with mentions of the Codex and society's imposed life careers.
Doesn't it bother you, knowing exactly how his life's gonna play out?
But apparently, between initial development in 2014 and actual production in 2016, the DCEU had already lost all cohesiveness.
Just trying to play games with you, man.
So a direct Man of Steel prequel set 200 years ago would just ultimately add to this growing mess. It would be better for the show to just have the freedom to be its own thing. Therefore it got a chance to feature a better looking Doomsday, make Zod bold too.
Kneel before Zod.
Put the yellow shield on the cape. I mean, how good can a show about Krypton be? Krypton opens with Superman's great-grandfather being executed. I went in not giving a f***, and I've never been curious about what Krypton was like. But I loved every second of the show, and I came out with a passionate flame to tell everyone about it.
Something changing your
You're probably still not sold. Why should I care about Krypton? Just simply saying the title feels more ludicrous than Gotham, because this time it's gonna end with the place exploding. Presumably with the entire cast still on it. However, where Gotham is pure schlock, Krypton takes a strangely intellectual approach that explores the sci-fi side of Superman's mythology through the lens of a historical drama, time travel, and elements of Lovecraftian horror, all while featuring special effects and character designs somehow better than the movies. Krypton isn't about the rise of Superman, it's about whether the people who came before him can rise to deserve him, through a struggle between tyranny and destiny. You see, Krypton had a strict caste system where everyone in a house are considered upper class and get to be part of guilds, like the Military Guild, Science Guild, Lawmakers Guild. Your placement is determined through your genetic profiling.
He will live 173 cycles in noble servitude to his reverence.
However, if you don't have any noble lineage, you're a rankless with no legal rights, live in squalor, and stuck in the middle of a war between the revolutionary group Black Zero and the Sagittari, who's kinda like the police.
What the hell are we thinking, Seg?
Furthermore, Krypton's inequality is consciously created to remove uncertainty, so those who hoard everything can continue to keep everything. And we see this at its most dramatic endpoint with Jax, the leader of Black Zero, who had her research into medicine stolen to create cloning technology for the rich, so they can continue owning everything.
The people who have everything can hold on to it. Forever.
Therefore, the only sane action is revolution. Although our protagonist, Superman's granddad, seg-el, starts out just simply chilling. He grew up at a real low point for the House of El, where despite belonging to a legendary family of altruistic scientists, they were stripped of all rank due to Grandpa Val refused to support the new pro-isolationist regime.
We are not alone in the universe. Krypton is vulnerable.
However, Val actually survived the execution by escaping to the Phantom Zone. It's kind of ironic, actually, if you think about it that way. As a result, Seg is like Good Will Hunting, an intellectually gifted fellow who comfortably lives in disgrace because he hates authority,
Wouldn't want to put more shame on the family, would I?
prefers living with the workers, and even has a best friend who sees he's better off moving up. Good old Cam.
Look, once you get vexed up, if I ever see you down here again, I'm gonna show you myself.
If you haven't realized, yes, Seg was deliberately characterized to be kind of like Superman's original appearance, as a hero of social justice and the downtrodden. But the irony is that his girlfriend is a Sagittari, light as Zod, but she's one of the good ones, I guess, who tries to reform them.
A man was dead, handcuffed and unarmed.
Look at this, an El and a Zod passionately in love. What's neat is that this isn't some sort of lovers to enemies journey. They're the endgame couple. In the absence of societal free will, everyone are starving of a reality where passion can be what motivates their choice, not just prescribed duty. But these crazy kids just do it.
Free drinks for the next hour!
Although of course, that means there's a disapproving parent figure / boss. Jaina Zod, who lives unquestionably loyal to the system, and her cope is to disassociate herself from her own feelings.
Do not mistake passion for strength.
Thus, despite how much she loves her daughter, Jaina doesn't say it. She doesn't really know any better, while Leiter uses this constant aura of disapproval as motivation to do better, like when she engaged in a fight to the death for leadership.
You try to hide it, but you don't think I will ever be worthy of the Zod name.
That's not true.
It is.
What's great is that Jaina has a massive character arc, and it begins with her deciding to betray her honor in order to spare Leiter in a sham trial by helping her boss's coup. She even has to drag poor Dev M into it, aka Aaron Peer.
I'll back you.
With Dev, it kinda looks like there's gonna be a love triangle with Leiter, but he actually ends up with her mom. In a society so authoritarian, the most important gift parents can provide their children isn't how to cope with society's lack of curiosity.
You have neither the right nor the rank to question this.
Because that would just reproduce the same confusions in their lifetimes, like honoring unjust laws, being honest under dishonest leaders, but to permit their children to be imaginative, to see alternatives from beyond what society intends for them.
I saw your constant questioning as a weakness.
Your grandfather was no traitor. He was a hero. He was trying to protect Krypton.
Now I see it's your greatest strength. Don't lose it now, when you need it most.
Jaina's boss, Darren Vex, preaches this. However, he's also a slimy motherfucker who doesn't really care about anything but himself.
So what do you believe in? Myself.
On the surface, he's a visionary, but underneath he's just a sniveling coward who needs his daughter Nyssa Vex to do everything.
There's a lot I could teach you about life up here.
Nyssa also eventually becomes Jor-El's mother via the Genesis Chamber.
She's the woman that Seg is bound to. They don't call it marriage, they call it a binding.
Such a rush of maternal warmth.
And has a whole mysterious backstory, which we don't find out about because the show got cancelled. House Vex have the right idea, but they're going about it the wrong way because it's not about equality, but it's about a power grab, which in the end is utterly dwarfed by Brainiac, a planetary threat who's only interested in acquiring knowledge and perfect cities through stasis. On one hand, he ironically mirrors the same cancerous elitism within Kryptonian society, where he's stripping people's agency to own everything, to own them.
People of Kandor, do not fear. I am here to save you.
As he recons, he literally cosplays as their Pope equivalent at one point, the voice of Rao. But on the other hand, he sees everything as just data, so the distinction between rank lists or guilds are utterly irrelevant to him. Therefore, for a brief moment, Seg and Nyssa are able to form various alliances against him, so Krypton's hierarchy finally breaks down. Relationships cut across class lines, armies are built from defying the system, but all rendered mute because Brainiac kills them all. Brainiac is where the Destiny aspect really comes into the season. In Krypton's original history, Kandor's bottling initiates Krypton's eventual explosion. Seg dies in battle, so Leiter will be so bitter that she'll raise their son, as Jaina did with her. The son being Drew f***ing Zod.
Kneel before Zod!
A twist that's so absurdly fun that now it makes sense why Jor-El and Zod were like brothers. That's because in this version, they literally were. And it's why Zod looks at Superman with an I know better than you position. He's literally his uncle. And furthermore, it's kinda hilarious Jaina is onto Zod's immediately.
You were imprisoned. What did you do?
His appearance causes her to reconsider what kind of person she is, and what kind of legacy is being produced. In fact, everyone questions their own legacy now.
You're asking me to sacrifice all of it for an idea, an abstraction, a future, if.
Seg was a flexible man in a rigid world, so the worst thing you can do is tell him he has to control his rage after his parents were killed. And he's also got important generational responsibility regarding his grandson,
Kal-El.
As a time traveler, Adam Strange is here to ensure Superman's existence, while Zod went back in time to trade Superman's future for Krypton's future, because that's all he knows.
I guess you're saying I'm not a perfect mother.
Maybe, but you taught me to put the defense of this world above all else. You fashioned me into a weapon. I take pride in that.
Both characters are respective mirrors for House El and Zod, the continuity created by generations before and after Seg and Leiter. Therefore, in context to everything we see in this anthropological study of Krypton, Superman represents all of Krypton's best, the kindness of the rankless, and the hope that comes from resistance.
He walked the Outlands for more than 50 cycles. His mind's not right anymore.
He is the ultimate embodiment of being more and saving everyone. It's in death that Krypton creates someone truly free, while Zod represents all the worst, unquestioned power through force, blind obedience to hierarchy, and a narcissistic desire for more power.
Guess it runs in the family.
Anyway, season 1 ends with Jaina fighting Zod, because she can see he's just in it for himself, but Leiter shoots her.
How dare you!
Seg and his army fails, thus as the Sagittarii scatter, Leiter inspires her, but it's futile. As she breaks down, Dev tries to reassure her that she made the same decision as her mother would, but that's not true. Where Jaina saved Leiter at the cost of her own honor, when it was Leiter's turn, she didn't. As a last-ditch effort, Zod brings Val back to fight Brainiac. But he doesn't know anything, so Zod wants to trade him for Kandor. Brainiac can have knowledge of the future, while he can have Krypton.
Your offer is sincere.
Seg can't do anything but shoot his grandpa. But it's actually a plucky plan to get Brainiac in range for the Phantom Zone, although he's good too. It would be easy for Krypton to coast on a dramatically safe status quo where seg-el, the rogue with noble blood, goes on adventures with Leiter, the girl he loves, Nyssa, the girl who loves him, and everyone else under Darren's evil schemes, who probably will send Kryptonian versions of famous Superman villains after him. After watching so much fucking Arrowverse stuff, that was the expectation I had. But what makes Krypton such a prestigious show isn't just the production value, but the fact that it doesn't do any of this. Season 2 instead builds itself around following this bad ending and following it to its most bleakest destination. 6 months later, Zod rebuilt Krypton as a military society, rendering it basically completely unrecognizable.
I don't recognize anything. It's like he erased it all.
His goal is to promote Kryptonian exceptionalism as rulers across the galaxy. The rankless are conscripted, the guilds become his military R&D, and those who dissent are eliminated regardless of their social position. The distinction between privilege is no longer about lineage, but loyalty and usefulness.
I don't know.
Subsequently, as the new central seasonal villain everyone is united against, Zod is on paper the thematic opposite of Brainiac. Where one seeks to preserve history, Zod aims to rewrite it. Where Brainiac is cold and unfeeling, Zod is passionate and patriotic. He loves Krypton. He loves his mummy.
Are you trying to get her killed?
But that love is so tyrannical that it loops back around to where we started, taking away people's power to choose their own destiny in order for the few to hoard all the power. I mean, he literally brainwashes people with pain in order to stop them from thinking more than what he has set out for them. Therefore, the response to him is, once again, resist. On Krypton's moon city-state, Wegther, Val and Jax run the rebel army, which Chem defects to when Adam Strange joins, while Seg escaped the Phantom Zone with Brainiac, who he f***ing clobbers to death.
This is a masterpiece.
Leading to Brainiac becoming his own Tyler Durden.
All right, on your left.
Dev left Zod's regime. He disobeyed orders to eliminate innocent civilians, so after Chem got him out, and seeing there's no compassion left in Leiter now, he left, on the run with Jaina, which becomes a weird romance. The point is, destiny has further evolved from personal burden to collective purpose. Purpose that is built from the dream of a society that should be kind to lovers and dreamers, led by lovers and dreamers. As a result, thematically, Superman becomes a very clever subtextual moral goalpost, where all of his beliefs that are oppositional to Zod becomes a moral identity that various characters must follow. He becomes a kind of off-screen compass, if you will. You see this the most in regards to Val-El. So basically, Nyssa gets coerced into a plan to trick the Resistance into retrieving tempered oxygen masks, which then wipes out 50% of their ground forces. They basically lose the war. So, as Leiter negotiates the Resistance's surrender, Jax refuses the deal and beats the shit out of her to get Zod to withdraw his forces. Val agrees that if Zod doesn't let his mother die to be consistent with his own absolute loyalty to the state, Kandor will see him as a hypocrite, but they're also becoming tyrants too. All this is happening while Seg confronts Zod.
I no longer need anything from you.
Which then Jaina and Dev, during their assassination mission, accidentally rescues him, but just for them to witness Leiter's execution. Jax has made a tactical error because people now don't see them as freedom fighters, but as just different tyrants.
We are meant to be offering them social reform, freedom from oppression, hope.
So Jax is made prisoner, and Val accepts that he doesn't have a tactical mind, but he has a set of ideals, and he negotiates with Zod with them.
You and I disagree on a great many things. But I know you believe what you're doing is for the good of our people.
Val, like Superman, his power is rooted in restraint and hope, compassion over vengeance, even when facing personal loss. But he's also another pushover because when negotiations break down, he blows up the entire space elevator connecting Wegther and Krypton. An action that also specifies what the show has to say about Superman. Hope is the first step towards liberation, because it offers a form of critical consciousness to believe in something better. The belief in one's ability to enact change is key to initiating resistance, and we see this as Seg is freed from Brainiac, so he picks up his son, and as Nyssa declines naming their child after the Vex's house, Jor-El is chosen after Val-El's father, another kind scientist.
It sounds perfect.
Seg-el and Kal-El both belong to nobility, but grew up in humble environments filled with flaws, but both became symbols of hope. Both resisted the rich and powerful. Seg's time away only sharpened his convictions, where he no longer questions his destiny but actively forges it. Thus, we the audience appreciate these dimensions in Superman's character. He's not a god to be worshipped, but a man who fights tyranny. That was his origins, and that is the most precious part of him.
Ours is a story of sacrifice, how the House of El led a revolution against tyranny.
Season 2, unlike the first season, was clearly developed without the restraints of making a show with any prospect of being a prequel to Man of Steel. It's instead completely free to be whatever it wants to be, where it got to play around a world without Superman to build its own mythology. And we see this with the goddamn ending. Brainiac spent so long with Seg that he sees the elves as the best of Krypton, so he takes Jor-El away. The killed Lighter was actually a clone because the real one is imprisoned in the Black Mercy, because Zod couldn't let his mother openly challenge him. When she reunites with Seg, Nyssa holds back her jealousy, by the way.
She's the love of your life, isn't she?
While Jaina forgives Lighter.
You are and always will be the best part of me.
However, when all is well, Zod releases Doomsday on the moon. The Resistance has to evacuate in a charge bravely led by an angry Nyssa. While to slow Doomsday down, Kem stays behind by detonating the mines. His final scene with Seg is truly beautiful. The two men laugh and cry. Then Nyssa uses the Zeta Beam to find Brainiac stumbling on the Thanagarians, and after Lighter's Sagittarius loyalists are all executed, the new plan is for her and Seg to personally confront Zod, while his forces are focused on wiping out the rest of the Resistance after they've returned to Krypton. They're outnumbered 5-1. But they have Jaina and normal people rising up. Lighter stands forward against Zod in the name of Krypton's freedom, while Zod argues freedom was what led to Krypton's destruction, so he doesn't give a f about them having nothing to live for.
There is a difference between surviving and living, and what you are offering is true.
It's not good enough.
Which leads to his own men refusing to arrest Seg and Lighter, who then beat the shit out of him in open combat. In the end, Zod is imprisoned with the Black Mercy, everyone celebrates, but then there's some final loose ends. Doomsday lands. In the celebration, Lobo demands Seg's help to help track Brainiac down. He agrees in exchange for rescuing his son, and finally Brainiac with baby Jor-El approaches Earth. While watching Krypton, I really couldn't help but to compare it with Gotham. Both are shows about the story before the story, where through an anthropological study of a place, its corruption, the experiences of ordinary people trying to survive inequality, and the unbending will of a protagonist doomed to fail, but still refuses to surrender. As prequels go, both are less about coming up with explanations for Superman or Batman stories, but using the lore to create bleak worlds where the quotidian is still comfortable because you're always aware of the big picture. The worst is here, the villains are in charge, but greater compassion, justice and love not only will one day arrive, but they are in fact a direct product of such a bleak environment. Leaders and heroes will rise.
General, would you care to step outside?
What I totally love about Krypton is that this totally made me actually care about Krypton in a way that has made me sympathize with Superman's longingness for what he never got to see. Where I was once apathetic, now I see tragedy, a lost world. Where once I was like whatever when it came to the S standing for hope because it's a Kryptonian symbol, now I truly see its honor. The destruction of Krypton was horrific, but it also filtered out all the worst of society, leaving the best onto his last son, which the Kents then nurtured, an amplified kindness that could be unleashed against a cruel universe that housed beings like Brainiac and tyrants like Zod. You don't need to care about Superman to be engrossed with Krypton. But caring about Superman deepens both in a really raw symbiosis, where Superman's legacy reflects backwards as light in Krypton's darkness, while the light from Krypton brightens up Superman's heritage more. Together you see hope in resisting against tyranny isn't just an interpretation of Superman's character, but the essential ingredient.
In 1938, in short, the world had never been a scarier or more unjust place. And at that time, the world's first superhero appeared on bookshelf.
But why was Krypton cancelled? Well, the average viewership decreased by over 50% over time. Season 2's finale attracted like, what, 350,000 viewers in contrast to the average 790,000 viewers for Season 1, despite the critical acclaim, and even Warner Brothers loved the show. But Syfy cancelled it and killed the Lobo spin-off.
Boo.
Mark my words, if HBO was around, the show would have been killer on it. Subsequently, plans for Season 3, which would have set up Season 4 and 5, were disclosed by showrunner Cameron Walsh. Jor-El was to be a teenager living on Earth, with Brainiac raising him as a superweapon. Seg, Lobo, and Adam track Nyssa on Rann, where she was saved by the Omega Men from the Thanagarians, who occupy the planet.
What are you trying to say? What's up there?
The team then uses the last of Adam Strange's Zeta beams to travel to modern-day Russia. However, somehow Seg doesn't get his powers, and presumably at one point, they save Lil Jor-El. Fertility rates explode on Krypton due to red kryptonite exposure, but also creates a zombie-like psychosis called Virus X. Val, Lyta, Dev, and Jaina need Zod's help because he's immune for some reason. Thus, he's sent into the birthing matrix, discovering the cause of the virus is the AI Oracle, who believes natural birth is a defect and wants to restart Krypton. Zod is completely happy with this, but when he tries to escape, he's captured and sent to the Phantom Zone, which he's mysteriously happy with. Val and Jor-El, who now has Brainiac-imbued super intellect abilities, rehabilitates Doomsday to create a cure using his physiology. However, as the Genesis Chamber is used to create a vaccine, they are swarmed by hordes of rabid Kryptonians, who Dev and Jaina lead the Sagittari to defend against. Oracle rejects the cure, but after understanding how far Kryptonians would go to save themselves, it downloads itself into a body, becoming the Eradicator, who starts killing everyone. As all hope seems to be lost, the rehabilitated Doomsday protects Seg and Val. Subsequently, during all of this, Nyssa discovers she's actually Thanagarian royalty, entitled to the throne. Darren actually killed her father, who was a spy sent to Krypton as a prelude for a full-blown Thanagarian invasion. She ends the Thanagarian occupation of Rann and becomes Hawkwoman, and alongside Adam Strange, returns to help the heroes, who are all outnumbered by the infected. Val sacrifices himself to save Jor-El, so he has enough time to bypass Eradicator's firewalls, releasing the vaccine, curing everyone, while finally, Doomsday with enough consciousness drags Eradicator into the Phantom Zone. However, as they fall in, Zod, Non and Ursa float out with glowing eyes. Fuck hell, man, god damn it! So that was the Krypton video. This completely derailed the planned Gotham video because I genuinely fell in love with the show so hard that in the middle of working that I just had to make this. However, I was slingshot back to Gotham in the Arrowverse after the Superman month is finished. It's next I'm hoping will be Lois and Clark, and then a new Superman and Lois video, and then a Christopher Reeve Superman movie video, and then Justice League Action and Legions of Superheroes. That is like the main sort of collection of stuff that I really want to do. There's also a Stargirl video that I really want to, strangely enough, started working on because I also enjoyed watching that show too. But yeah, anyway, special thanks to everyone on Patreon. I'm trying to become more efficient with making these, and so the video length times will wildly fluctuate based on how long the show is, basically. Ow.
For me, that was a real allure that I was always fascinated when I was a kid reading comic books about Krypton. They've only shaded in a tiny bit, so we'll learn about the politics of the world, we'll learn about the culture, the art, all the different guilds. We will go to a lot of different locations other than just Cryptopolis, which is the main city that Superman was born in.